How would you improve Spotify? Most candidates crash by minute 2. Today, you won't. Welcome to Prod School. It's been a minute, but we're back, bigger and way more ambitious. If you're prepping for PM interviews at top tech companies, this deep dive will change how you answer product improvement for good. By the end, you'll have a repeatable, step-by-step approach you can use on any product. We'll apply it live to Spotify, the same prompt I got in my Microsoft product management interview, and it's a common question type across companies like Google, Meta, Uber, and countless others. So let me tell you something, folks. Here's the brutal truth about product improvement questions. 87% of candidates fail them, not because they lack product intuition, but because they don't have a repeatable framework. Most candidates fail product improvement not from weak intuition, but from a lack of structure. They wing it, toss random feature ideas, and the problem, they treat every product improvement question like a brainstorming session instead of a structured business analysis. Today, let's fix that. Which brings us to my next point: how do we tackle product improvement questions systematically? We're not peddling yet another framework. There are enough of that already out there. What we want to give you is an approach. It's clean, it's reusable, and most importantly, it's interviewer-friendly. The first thing you need to do is understand what the product actually is and build rapport with your interviewer. This isn't about showing off your knowledge, it's about establishing a shared understanding so you're both talking about the same thing. Once you've done that, you move on to your clarifying questions. And here's the key: if the interviewer asks you to make assumptions, you always need to justify why you made those specific assumptions. Next, you establish a common definition of what improvement actually means. Are we talking about user acquisition? Are we focusing on engagement? Maybe it's retention we're after. Generally, this depends heavily on the stage of the product. For a new product, the primary goal might be activation, while for an established product, it might be retention. So you can build valid, intelligent assumptions here as well. Based on these, you define your specific goal and ensure that your interviewer is fully aligned. Once that goal is crystal clear, then you move on to users. You define different segments of users, identify subsegments if necessary, and pick a particular user segment that makes the most sense for your goal. Most candidates just give a very basic user segmentation, and this is where you can truly differentiate yourself in this step. Next, you'll map out their user journeys in detail and identify the specific pain points they might be experiencing. This is something that you'll have to do in every PM interview, so get really good at it. Practice as much as possible with various user journeys and see what might cause friction. After pain point identification, prioritize one of those pain points and then systematically solve it while keeping the previously defined goal in mind. This systematic approach is what separates candidates who get offers from those who don't. Guys, remember, instead of jumping straight to feature ideas like most people do, you need to be demonstrating strategic thinking. Instead of throwing out generic solutions, you're showing how to prioritize based on actual business impact. Most importantly, you're proving you can think like a senior PM who considers users, business metrics, and implementation reality before proposing any solutions. Now, rather than just walking through theory, let's see this entire framework in action in a real interview setting. Stick around to the Spotify teardown. I'll show you exactly how to move from vague ideas to a crisp, executive-level answer in minutes. And I'll also share a one-page answer template you can reuse for any product. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're dropping new PM interview content every week. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. And if you're serious about landing that PM offer, subscribe. We're rolling out mock interviews by level: APM, PM, Senior PM, Director very soon. You're about to see a back-and-forth interview conversation where our candidate applies this exact framework to how would you improve Spotify. Watch how they build rapport, ask strategic clarifying questions, define improvement goals, segment users, and systematically work through the problem. Pay attention to the structure. This is exactly what your interview responses should sound like. Let's get started.
Hey, Alex. How are you doing today?
I am good. Thanks for having me. Really excited about the prospect of joining your team here at.
Great. Let's dive into a product sense question. How would you improve Spotify? Take your time to think through this systematically.
Got it. So I am supposed to improve Spotify. Sure. Let me take a few moments to think about how I'd want to structure my answer. Okay. So my goal is to discuss how to improve Spotify.
Before I jump into solutions,
Is it all
I wanna
right
make
if I
sure
ask a few
fully
clarifying
understand
questions
the
to
problem
narrow the
and
scoop?
the context.
Is it all right if I ask a few clarifying questions to narrow the scope?
Sure, take your time.
So I'm going to assume we're focusing on the core music streaming experience for end users, rather than, say, the artist platform or the advertising side. Does that sound okay, or do you want me to focus on the other two?
That's a reasonable assumption, but tell me why you made that choice. What led you to focus there specifically?
Good question. I focused on the music streaming experience because that's really the heart of Spotify and where the vast majority of its users are. Over 400 million listeners, I believe. While the artist platform and the ad business are definitely important, any improvements we make to the listener experience tend to have the biggest ripple effect on key metrics, like how often people use the app, whether they stick around, and ultimately how many of them decide to upgrade to a premium subscription. Plus, when listeners are more engaged, it naturally benefits artists through better discovery and more streams. It's a flywheel effect.
Fair reasoning. Go ahead.
I'm assuming we should consider both free and premium users, since they represent different sides of the same coin in Spotify's business model. I'm also thinking globally, rather than focusing on a specific region. And importantly, I'm assuming we're working within realistic technical and resource constraints. So ideas that Spotify could actually build, not just blue sky thinking.
Why both free and premium users? Wouldn't focusing on one segment be more effective?
Good point. I chose both because of how intertwined their relationship is in Spotify's ecosystem. The free users generate a massive amount of data that helps improve the recommendation engine for everyone, and they are the primary funnel for new premium subscribers. The premium users, on the other hand, provide the revenue that funds all the innovation.
But if you had to choose between the two.
Okay, let me think. If I had to prioritize, I would probably lean towards focusing on highly engaged free users who haven't yet converted. They represent a significant untapped revenue opportunity, and the friction points they experience often highlight issues that affect all users.
Interesting. What specific business objective are you optimizing for?
I would prioritize user engagement and retention as the primary objectives. Here's my thinking. Engagement is what fuels the data flywheel that gives Spotify its edge in recommendations. Retention is crucial because it lowers the cost of acquiring new customers and increases the lifetime value of each user. Both of these ultimately support the core business, whether that's through ad revenue from engaged free users or through premium subscription growth.
Got it. Before moving forward, share with me your perspective on Spotify's fundamental value proposition.
To me, Spotify fundamentally solves two things: music accessibility and discovery. Before platforms like Spotify, discovering new music was a lot more limited by your geography, your social circle, and what you could afford. Spotify really democratized access to a global catalog of music, and more importantly, it made discovering new music effortless and personal through data. The real magic isn't just having millions of songs, it's about helping you find the right song for the right moment.
That's one way to look at it. What makes you confident that discovery is the core differentiator rather than, say, convenience or price?
That's a good question. While convenience and price are definitely important, I believe discovery is what creates the most durable competitive moat. Think about it. Apple Music has a similar level of convenience, especially with its deep integration into Apple devices. And Amazon Music often has competitive pricing through its Prime bundle. But Spotify's discovery algorithms which are built on the listening habits of hundreds of millions of users, are incredibly difficult to replicate. Features like Discover Weekly have become a ritual for millions of people. They come back specifically for Spotify's recommendations, not just to listen to music they already know. Actually, let me ask you, does this align with how you see Spotify's competitive positioning? Should I continue down this path of focusing on discovery, or would you like me to consider other strategic angles?
I think discovery is worth exploring. How does that translate into a sustainable competitive advantage?
It creates a few reinforcing advantages. First, there's the data flywheel I mentioned. More users lead to more listening data, which improves recommendations, which in turn attracts more users. Second, there are behavioral switching costs. Once you've invested time in Spotify and it has learned your taste, switching to another service means losing all of that personalization. And third, there are network effects that come from social sharing and collaborative playlists. The more of your friends who are on Spotify, the more valuable it becomes for sharing and discovering music together. So, based on this, I think our goal should be to strengthen Spotify's discovery advantage as a way to improve our key engagement and retention metrics. Does that sound like a reasonable objective to anchor our efforts on?
That makes sense. Go ahead.
Perfect. So let me summarize what we have established so far. We're focusing on improving Spotify's core music streaming experience for both free and premium users, with a particular emphasis on highly engaged free users as a key conversion opportunity. Our main goal is to boost user engagement and retention. We're going to do that by strengthening Spotify's core competitive advantage, which is intelligent music discovery. The underlying hypothesis is that by creating better discovery experiences, we'll fuel the data flywheel, make the platform stickier for users, and ultimately drive growth through both ad revenue and premium subscriptions. If this framing makes sense to you, my next step would be to dive into user segmentation to identify where we can make the biggest impact. Should I proceed?
Yes, let's talk about users. How are you thinking about segmentation?
I would segment Spotify users along two dimensions that are directly related to our focus on discovery. The first is engagement behavior. How actively are they trying to discover new music versus just passively listening to what they already know? The second dimension is their monetization status. Are they a free or a premium user? This gives us a few different segments, but the one I'm most interested in is what I'd call the free active discoverers. These are the users who are constantly engaging with discovery features but haven't yet made the jump to a premium subscription. I believe they represent the highest value opportunity for improvement.
Walk me through your reasoning on that prioritization.
So they get what makes the product special. Their high level of engagement suggests a strong product market fit and a high likelihood of long-term retention. They also generate incredibly rich data that helps improve the platform for everyone. And most importantly, they're probably hitting the limitations of the free tier right when they're most engaged, which makes them prime candidates for conversion. Any improvements we make for this segment will likely benefit other users as well.
How would you specifically identify and characterize this segment?
I would identify them through their behavior on the platform. These are the users who regularly listen to algorithmic playlists like Discover Weekly and Release Radar. They create and maintain multiple playlists, they frequently search for new artists, and they share music with their friends. They exhibit a lean-forward behavior, actively curating their listening experience rather than just passively consuming it. We could even quantify this by looking at users who listen to, say, 70% or more of their discovery playlists and maintain between 8 to 15 active playlists.
What makes you confident these behavioral indicators predict conversion potential?
These behaviors signal a real investment in the platform. When users create multiple playlists, they're building a personal library that creates switching costs. Their high consumption of discovery playlists shows that Spotify's recommendations over just using it as a music player. And social sharing indicates that Spotify is part of their social identity, which makes the platform even stickier. Most importantly, these are the users who are most likely to run into the limitations of the free tier, like ad interruptions or a limited number of skips, right in the middle of a moment of deep engagement. This creates a natural opportunity to show them the value of upgrading. I'd like to now dive a bit deeper into the specific pain points of this segment. Should I walk you through their user journey to identify where we can make the most impact?
Absolutely. What does that journey look like?
Okay, Let's walk through a typical discovery session for one of our free active discoverers. They open Spotify, probably looking for something new to listen to, so they head to their Discover Weekly playlist or search for a playlist that matches their mood. The first major friction point they hit is the limited number of skips. They want to quickly sample a bunch of new songs to find a few gems, but hitting that 6 skips per hour limit can completely kill their momentum. The second pain point is ad interruptions, which can really break the immersive experience of getting lost in new music. Third, it's not always easy to save a new discovery to one of their playlists without disrupting what they're currently listening to, especially on mobile. Fourth, with no offline access, they can't save those new discoveries to listen to later when they don't have an internet connection. And finally, there are limitations on sharing that can prevent them from immediately sending a cool new find to a friend.
Which of these problems do you think has the highest impact?
I believe the skip limitation has the most significant negative impact. It directly contradicts Spotify's core value proposition of discovery. When these active discoverers hit their skip limit during a moment of peak discovery, it's immediately frustrating. It can cause them to abandon their session, and it creates a negative association with what should be Spotify's most magical feature. This is especially damaging because these are the users who are most likely to be evangelists for Spotify, but the skip limit can make the experience feel restrictive rather than liberating.
How would you validate and quantify this problem?
I would use a mix of quantitative and qualitative methods. Quantitatively, I'd look at cohorts of users who frequently hit their skip limits versus those who don't. I'd look at metrics like retention, session length, playlist creation, and premium conversion rates. My hypothesis would be that we'd see significantly lower retention and conversion rates, perhaps 15 to 25% lower retention and 30 to 40% lower conversion, among the users who frequently hit their skip limit. I'd also track what happens right after a user hits their limit. Do they abandon the session? Does their engagement drop off? Qualitatively, I'd want to talk to these active users directly. I'd interview active discoverers who have churned or reduced their usage. I'd run diary studies where they document their discovery sessions, and I'd analyze support tickets for mentions of skips and frustration. Finally, I'd run a controlled experiment where we temporarily increase the skip limit for a subset of users to see if we can establish a causal link to improved engagement and conversion. Based on this analysis, I'd like to propose a solution. Should I walk you through my approach to addressing the skip limitation problem?
Yes. Let's hear your thinking.
I'd propose a feature I'm calling Smart Discovery Sessions. It's a 3-part solution that addresses the skip limitation while still maintaining a strong incentive to upgrade to premium. First, we'd introduce context-aware skip allowances. During active discovery sessions within algorithmic playlists like Discover Weekly, we would temporarily increase the number of skips to, say, 15 or 20 per session. This allowance would reset after a period of inactivity. Second, we could introduce discovery coins, a sort of gamified currency that users can earn through positive engagement, like finishing a discovery playlist or sharing a new song. They could then spend these coins on additional skips. And third, we could use machine learning to implement more intelligent pre-filtering of recommendations to reduce the need for skips in the first place by better matching the initial recommendations to the user's current context and preferences.
How does this maintain the premium value proposition?
That's a key consideration. Premium would still offer a clearly superior experience. Unlimited skips everywhere, in personal playlists, in search results, in all contexts. Smart Discovery Sessions would only apply to a specific set of algorithmic discovery playlists. The discovery coins would be capped and would reset on a weekly basis, creating a sense of scarcity. This solution aims to remove the biggest point of frustration during what should be Spotify's most engaging activity, while still maintaining very clear differentiation for the broader freedom and other features that come with a premium subscription, like offline access and ad-free listening.
What success metrics would you track?
Let me think. So for our primary metrics, I'd be looking for a X% increase in the number of new songs saved per user each month, a Y% reduction in session abandonment after hitting a skip limit, and let's say 10% improvement in 7-day retention for our active discoverers segment. Again, these are dummy percentage numbers, and actual numbers will be dependent on the current actual data within Spotify.
Okay. What about any business metrics?
For business metrics, I'd be looking for something like an X% improvement in the free to premium conversion rate within the segment and an overall increase in user lifetime value. I would also want to closely monitor for any potential negative impacts, like a decrease in the overall premium conversion rate or a drop in satisfaction among existing premium users, to ensure we're not cannibalizing our revenue.
What risks concern you most with this approach?
Great question. The biggest risk, in my opinion, is definitely cannibalization, as you mentioned. We do not want that. If the free experience becomes too good, it could reduce the incentive to upgrade to premium. I'd mitigate this by being very careful with the scope, limiting the smart discovery sessions to only algorithmic playlists, and putting strict caps on the discovery coins. Another concern would be the infrastructure costs associated with higher engagement without an immediate increase in revenue. I'd address this by rolling out the feature gradually and closely monitoring our costs. There's also the risk that users could try to game the discovery coin system, which we would need to prevent through fraud detection and daily earning limits.
Okay, let's take a pause here. Let's say you were restarting again. If you had to choose a completely different approach to solve this, what would it be?
That's a great question. If I had to take a completely different approach, I would explore something I'd call discovery paths. Instead of the current model of evaluating individual songs, which necessitates skips, we could create curated themed journeys of 15-20 minutes, like indie rock rising stars or global hip-hop fusion. With this approach, users would choose a complete experience that is designed to have smooth transitions and that provides context about the artists. This would shift the interaction model from sampling individual tracks to experiencing a curated flow. It would reduce the need for skips through better upfront matching of a user's taste to a complete experience, while also creating new differentiated content that showcases Spotify's curation expertise.
How would you decide between these two solutions?
I would prioritize Smart Discovery sessions as the first version to build. My decision is based on implementation complexity and the amount of user behavior change required. It builds on existing user patterns that are already well understood and would require a moderate amount of technical development. Discovery paths, while potentially more differentiated in the long run, would require a significant content creation effort and new UI paradigms, which comes with a higher adoption risk. I think we could launch Smart Discovery sessions within 6 months and see a predictable impact, whereas discovery paths would be more of a 12 to 18-month strategic initiative aimed at stronger long-term competitive differentiation.
Good. I see we're almost out of time, and I do want to give you a few minutes at the end to ask a few questions about the role, etc. But one last question. How does this improvement fit into Spotify's broader strategy?
I see this as a key part of Spotify's evolution from a music library into an intelligent audio companion. By solving this key point of friction in the discovery process, we're strengthening the core data flywheel that powers Spotify's competitive advantage. Better discovery leads to richer behavioral data, which in turn improves our algorithms, which then attracts more users and artists, creating a virtuous cycle of more content and more data. This not only solidifies Spotify's position in music, but also paves the way for future opportunities in other areas. So I see this as not just a user experience enhancement, but a strategic investment in the long-term evolution of Spotify's platform and its competitive moat.
Got it. I appreciate you walking me through your thought process.
I thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed thinking through this problem. Spotify is a product I use every day, so it was fun to think about how to make it even better.
Thanks for staying through the entire interview. That was an incredible breakdown, and I want to highlight 5 key focus areas that will completely transform your product improvement interview performance. First, take frequent pauses. Nobody is expecting you to immediately start rambling. In fact, while you might think pauses are scary, starting to speak immediately can have a significant negative impact because it might seem like you've just rote-learned the answer. Those thoughtful pauses actually demonstrate that you're processing the question strategically. Second, always think competition. You should be able to focus on what will give you the maximum competitive advantage. Every solution you propose should consider how it positions the product better against competitors. This strategic thinking is what separates senior PMs from junior ones. Third, always check in multiple times with your interviewer and keep summarizing what you've done so far to establish that common understanding. This isn't just good interview technique, it's exactly how you'd work with stakeholders in the actual role. Make sure you're both aligned before moving to the next phase. Fourth, and this is crucial, it's not about the right answer. I specifically chose an interview segment where, if you think about it, the second choice that the interviewee gave as a potential solution wasn't that different from the first one. Remember, it's not about the perfect answer. It's about ensuring you can defend your reasoning. Nobody's asking you to improve Spotify on day one of your job. Lastly, enjoy. As much as interviews are taxing, product interviews are actually fun business use cases. Always go in with an open mind. Practice as much as you can beforehand and have a discussion with your interviewer. It's a conversation, not an interrogation. Now, lastly, as mentioned in the starting of the video, you can get the complete product improvement question template. It includes all phases with example questions and common mistakes to avoid. The link is in the description below. Make sure to subscribe for more PM interview content. Next week, we're covering Design a Product for Teenagers, a product design interview with expert breakdown from a former Meta PM. We'll dive into user research methodology, feature prioritization frameworks, and go-to-market strategy. You absolutely don't want to miss it. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest content. Thanks for watching. Keep practicing these frameworks, and remember, great product managers aren't born, they're systematically developed. We'll see you in the next one.